No, I do not believe in the existence of any god or gods. The reasons for these are really three, actually. Firstly, I don't actually believe it's internally consistent. The stories about God are very different in every single way from each other. It's internally contradictory, and I just can't bring myself to believe that. Secondly, I would say I've met some very nice religious people, I'll admit that, but I also think many religious people I have met were some of the worst. Lastly, there is a frightening lack of evidence. Elves, zombies, unicorns, wizards, MacGyver, they all sort of belong in the same category, which is fiction. I'm gonna pull the same card I did last time. It's fiction. There's probably nothing after death. Don't be counting on it. If someone were to show me that I've somehow mischaracterized God in some significant way, or that I've been looking for evidence in a way that's not really cohesive to finding him, then perhaps I'd be willing to change my opinion over the above three comments. But short of that, I think it would take maybe a brain tumor. I think it'll surprise no one at this point that I'm not actually part of any religious group, and actually proud to say so. I don't really believe in the ideas of good or evil as you've described them. I think I'd rather frame them as being either right or wrong. And in this instance, for the purposes of YouTube, I think it's suffice to say that a right action is one that creates happiness for the individual or for society at large. My attitude is always pretty good, actually. I very much enjoy engaging in debate and discussion. I'm always willing to change my opinions. I realize that I might be wrong about any of these things, and I enjoy the learning process probably more than anything else. So my attitude towards people who disagree with me is that I want to learn from them as much as possible. My guiding philosophy is that everything is more complicated than you think it is. I think it's important that people realize that just about everyone will tell you that they're knowledgeable about science. I've spoken to people who believe that, for instance, the Earth is the center of the universe. I've spoken to people who are creationists. I've spoken to all sorts of people, and every single one of them will tell you that they have the scientific facts right. I don't want to be one of those people, so I'm just going to be quiet on that point. As for metaphysical claims, what I really want to stress is that I think science can only deal with things that are really like about the world, or make some sort of testable prediction in our known universe. So if your metaphysical commitment, like for instance for God, doesn't make any sort of difference to how the world is or how it operates, then science really can't say anything on that issue. What philosophy can say, however, is a very different matter. I don't know if you want to consider laughter an attitude or more of a response, but that's basically my attitude and my response. If you find this offensive and you're a naturopath or a homeopath, I really strongly suggest you see a doctor. A real doctor. I'm not actually part of any political party in Canada. If you lived in Canada, you'd probably understand why. We have a nice political spectrum between crazy and evil. you'd see why I have some trouble deciding between these two options. I'm not as politically active as I suppose I used to be, but if there's one issue that I think I really do make a big fuss out of, it's the freedom of speech. That's something that I think, as a right, it secures all of our other rights and is really worth defending. Putting aside the issue of whether they're right or wrong, I think the real issue is whether they're legal. Laws aren't about what's right and wrong. Lying is wrong, and it's not illegal to lie. But I do think abortion should be legal. It should be legal, safe, and hopefully very rare. States have a responsibility to protect the interests and the choices that are made by individuals while they're still able to make them. That is why I think euthanasia should be made legal and protected and safe. Marriage is not about having children. Marriage is not about protecting Stone Age or Bronze Age institutions. Marriage is primarily about being in love with somebody and wanting to stay together in a committed relationship. And I think insofar as individuals are willing to enter into that kind of contract, then the state has really no right to tell people that they're unfit to marry each other just because of their sex, or that they're not in love with each other just because of their sex. I think the contrary position to the one I'm proposing is largely authoritarian and either implicitly or explicitly homophobic. If you're to look at Wikipedia and look up British culture, they'll tell you endlessly about the scientific revolution and about Francis Bacon and Sir Isaac Newton. If you're to look at German history and German culture, they will emphasize over and over again the great philosophers like Hegel and Nietzsche, or poets like Goethe. If you're to look at Italian culture, they will emphasize the role of art and the importance of the Renaissance in creating our modern civilization. I think this largely speaks to the issue of having superiority of a culture, ethnicity, or race. Basically, every race or ethnicity has something awesome to offer us. And being racist ultimately values your own ethnic history to the exclusion of all of the other elements of history that we see in the world. Personally, also, I believe it is a very easy road towards gaining a personality, that you look at your ethnic history and basically say, I am like these people. But you're not like any of these people, any of the people in your ethnic history. That has absolutely nothing to do with who you are and what you value. It's just an easy road to take credit for accomplishments that you never gained. The public sphere needs to be open to everyone, regardless of their gender or their race or their sexuality or, yes, even their religion. It needs to combine ideas, not just because that will ultimately result in a better idea, but also because in a democratic society, the choices that that society makes needs to be acceptable to every individual. We can't have that when, for instance, one set of values or one set of religious principles is considered primary or is considered better than all of the others. That's why I believe in the separation of church and state.